My sister sent me a wedding invitation with a sticky note. Come see what true love looks like. I'm Madison Foster, 28, and this is how I legally reclaimed everything from the sister who stole my fiancé. What she didn't know was that certain legal documents were still in effect, documents that would turn her perfect wedding into her worst nightmare. If you're watching this, please subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. 3 months before this wedding, I was planning my own ceremony with the same groom. I'd picked the flowers, tasted the cake, even bought my dream dress. But sometimes, losing everything is the only way to discover you've been holding all the cards the entire time. Growing up as the older sister should have meant something. But in the foster household, being responsible, mature, and independent just meant I was expected to handle everything on my own. Sophia was 3 years younger, but you'd think she was still in diapers the way our parents coddled her. Madison can handle it, became the family motto. College tuition? Madison got loans while Sophia got a free ride. First car? I worked 2 jobs while Sophia got a BMW for her sweet 16. When I graduated summa cum laude with my accounting degree, my parents couldn't make it. Sophia had a dance recital. The pattern was so consistent I stopped expecting anything else. By 25, I'd built something they couldn't give Sophia: a 6-figure savings account, a senior accountant position at a Fortune 500 company, and complete financial independence. That's what attracted Ryan Mitchell in the first place. We met at a financial conference where I was presenting on tax optimization strategies. He approached me afterward, all charm and ambition, saying he'd never met someone who made spreadsheets sexy. "You're different from other women," he'd said, and I'd foolishly thought it was a compliment. "You don't need anyone to take care of you." What I didn't realize was that Ryan saw my independence as a resource to exploit. Within 6 months of dating, I'd covered our rent because he was between deals. I'd funded his real estate certification because it was an investment in our future. I'd even put down the deposit on his new office space because successful men need to look successful. Sophia, meanwhile, lived at home, posting Instagram photos and calling herself an influencer with her 50,000 bot followers. But she had something I apparently lacked: the ability to make everything about her. The comparison started subtly. "Your sister has such a fun energy," Ryan would say after family dinners. "You could learn to loosen up a little." When Sophia started showing up to our date nights, I was in the neighborhood. Ryan never sent her away. Instead, he'd pull out a chair, order her drinks, and spend the evening laughing at her stories while I calculated the bill in my head. "You're lucky to have me," he said one night after I'd questioned why Sophia had his new office key. Not many guys would date someone so serious. Our families reinforced the narrative. At Thanksgiving, my mother gushed about how Sophia just lights up a room, while I carved the turkey I'd bought and cooked. My father would chuckle when Sophia flirted with Ryan, calling it harmless fun and telling me I needed to stop being so possessive. The financial exploitation escalated. Ryan's credit cards were maxed, so I covered our vacation to Miami, where Sophia somehow ended up joining us. His investment opportunities always needed my capital, but the returns never materialized. I was funding a lifestyle for two while being told I was fortunate he chose me. Then came the text messages. I'd grabbed Ryan's phone to check the time when I saw Sophia's name. 2:47 a.m. "She's so boring. When are you going to realize you deserve better?" Ryan's response: "Soon, baby. Just need to get a few more things in order." My hands shook as I scrolled up. 3 months of messages, each one a dagger. Plans to meet while I worked late. Jokes about my robot personality. And worst of all, Ryan's message from last week: "Once I get access to her investment accounts, we're set." I confronted them at our favorite cafe. Well, what used to be our favorite. They were sitting in our booth, Sophia's hand on his thigh, his lips on her neck. The barista actually gasped when I walked up. 20 other customers turned to watch. 3 years, Ryan. 3 years. Sophia didn't even flinch. She actually smiled. "Madison, you're embarrassing yourself. Everyone can see we're better together." You don't deserve him. You never did. Ryan straightened his collar, that practiced real estate smile sliding into place. Look, Madison. Sophia makes me feel alive. You make me feel like I'm at a board meeting. Can you blame me for choosing happiness? Choosing happiness? I paid for that happiness. Your certification, your office, your entire— Nobody asked you to, Sophia interrupted. You threw money at him because that's all you have to offer. The entire cafe was recording on their phones. I stood there, feeling my carefully constructed life crumbling while strangers documented my humiliation. Ryan actually had the audacity to hold out his hand. I'll need the engagement ring back. It's a family heirloom. I laughed. Actually laughed. The ring I'd paid for when his credit was declined was now a family heirloom. But I pulled it off and placed it in his palm, watching Sophia's eyes light up as she grabbed it. My parents' response was worse than the betrayal itself. Forgive them, Madison, my mother said over the phone. Family is more important than some boy. Sophia can't help who she falls in love with. Besides, my father added, maybe this is a lesson for you. Men need warmth, not spreadsheets. The family WhatsApp group exploded with messages supporting love conquering all. Not one person asked if I was okay. Within 48 hours, I'd become a meme. Investment banker loses man to fund sister trending on TikTok. My colleagues whispered in the break room, conversations stopping when I walked by. LinkedIn connections sent supportive messages that barely masked their schadenfreude. One client actually asked if my personal instability would affect their portfolio. Poor Madison became my new name. Poor Madison, who couldn't keep a man interested. Poor Madison, whose own sister was more desirable. Poor Madison, working 60-hour weeks while everyone else found love. The narrative was set. I was the bitter, boring sister who'd lost to the vivacious, lovable one. Ryan wasn't done taking. His lawyer, paid for with my money no doubt, sent a letter claiming I'd agreed to gift him the apartment. The down payment I'd made, the mortgage payments I'd covered for 2 years, apparently those were gifts between partners. Without proof of a loan agreement, I might actually lose the home I'd built. Sophia posted daily updates of their romance. Breakfast in bed at my apartment. Sunset photos on the balcony I'd renovated. Her captions were masterclasses in passive aggression. When you find your soulmate, everything falls into place. Hashtag blessed, hashtag true love, hashtag upgrade complete. Extended family chose sides without asking for mine. Aunts who'd praised my success now called me too ambitious for my own good. Cousins shared Sophia's posts with heart emojis. My grandmother's birthday card contained a note. Maybe focus less on career and more on keeping a man. If I stayed silent, if I attended their wedding with a fake smile, I'd cement my role as the family failure. The cautionary tale. The sister who had everything except what mattered. They'd already rewritten history. Soon, they'd erase me entirely. My phone buzzed at 6 a.m. on a Saturday. Grandma Eleanor never called this early unless someone was dying or she was planning something. At 75, the woman who'd built a construction empire from nothing didn't waste time on pleasantries. Madison, my office. 1 hour. Come alone. Eleanor Foster's office hadn't changed since 1985. Dark mahogany, leather-bound books, and a portrait of my grandfather who'd died before I was born. She sat behind her desk like a general planning a campaign, her silver hair pulled into the same severe bun she'd worn for 40 years. Sit, she commanded, sliding a folder across the desk. I've been watching this circus for 3 months. Your parents are idiots, your sister is a parasite, and that boy is about to learn why I've kept the same lawyer for 4 decades. Grandma, I appreciate— You signed papers 2 years ago. Do you remember what they were? I thought back. 2 years ago, Ryan and I had just gotten engaged. Eleanor had insisted on the prenuptial agreement, but we never got married, so it's void. Her smile was sharp as a blade. Read Clause 17. My hands trembled as I found the page. There, in black and white, was language I'd forgotten. This agreement remains in effect from the date of signing until formally terminated by both parties in writing, regardless of the status of the wedding ceremony. Ryan signed it, Eleanor continued, because he thought he was securing access to your assets. What he didn't read was Clause 18, the automatic renewal every 6 months unless terminated. Guess who never filed termination papers? But we're not married. How can a prenup? You remember those documents you both signed last year? The ones Ryan said were for insurance? My blood ran cold. Those weren't insurance papers? Sophia's Instagram became her weapon of choice. The engagement announcement post was a masterpiece of cruelty. A photo of her wearing my ring, in my apartment, with Ryan's arms around her. The caption read, "Sometimes the universe corrects its mistakes. Thank you for keeping him warm for me, sis. True love wins. Upgraded. Sorry not sorry. Tagged." I was tagged so all my professional contacts could see. Within an hour, 10,000 likes. Comments poured in from her followers, mostly young women who loved the drama. Your sister could never. He chose the right sister. This is what confidence looks like. She live-streamed from my kitchen, cooking in the pans I'd bought, using the recipes I'd taught her. Guys, I'm making Ryan's favorite meal. Madison never cooked for him, too busy with her boring job. Men need nurturing, not spreadsheets. Ryan appeared in frame, kissing her neck. This is what I was missing, an actual woman, not a walking calculator. Their couple's TikTok went viral. Day 1 of planning our dream wedding, showed them at the venue I'd booked, with the florist I'd chosen, tasting the cake I'd selected. The wedding planner, who I'd paid a non-refundable deposit, actually appeared in their video. Madison's loss is Sophia's gain, she chirped. Same vision, better bride. 50,000 views in 3 hours. The algorithm loved their story, the passionate younger sister winning against the cold older one. Comment sections became forums for women sharing stories of stealing boring girls' men. My company's HR called. Madison, we're concerned about your social media presence affecting our brand. Perhaps you should consider taking a leave of absence until this situation calms down. Even my professional reputation was becoming collateral damage in Sophia's victory tour. Dad's 60th birthday should have been about him. Instead, Sophia turned it into her personal announcement party. 50 relatives crammed into my parents' house, the same house where I'd been told to forgive and forget just weeks earlier. I arrived late, hoping to avoid the spotlight. Sophia had other plans. She clinked her champagne glass. Champagne, I noticed, came from the case I'd bought for my wedding, until the room fell silent. Everyone, Ryan and I have an announcement. She paused for dramatic effect, her hand on her stomach in the universal gesture before catching herself. We're getting married in 3 weeks. Gasps. Congratulations. Then the twist of the knife. And it's going to be on June 15th. June 15th. My wedding date. The date everyone in this room had saved for my wedding. Isn't that, Aunt Patricia started. The perfect date, Sophia interrupted. The venue had a last-minute cancellation. Can you believe the luck? Ryan stood beside her, his arm possessively around her waist. We figured, why let good planning go to waste? Madison did such thorough research, it would be a shame not to use it. Nervous laughter rippled through the room. My mother actually smiled. How efficient! Madison, you don't mind, do you? You always said the details didn't matter, just the tax benefits. Every eye turned to me. 50 relatives waiting to see if I'd make a scene. Ruin Dad's birthday. Prove I was the bitter sister they'd been whispering about. Of course not, I heard myself say. I hope you enjoy the dress too. Sophia's smile faltered for just a second. What dress? The Vera Wang I custom ordered. Size 4, right? The one you tried on last month when you said you were just looking? James Chen had been my study partner through Harvard Law before I'd pivoted to finance. Now he was one of Boston's most ruthless contract attorneys. And more importantly, he owed me a favor from when I'd covered his rent during his bar exam prep. His office was the opposite of Grandma Eleanor's, all glass and chrome, overlooking the harbor. He read through the documents Eleanor had given me, his expression shifting from professional interest to barely contained glee. Madison, do you understand what you have here? A prenup that's somehow still valid? Not just a prenup. He spread the papers across his desk like a poker hand. Ryan signed a common law marriage affidavit last year. You did too, though yours was buried in those insurance documents. In this state, with your cohabitation history and these documents, you're legally married. My coffee cup crashed to the floor. That's impossible. We never had a ceremony. Doesn't matter. Common law marriage doesn't require a ceremony. It requires cohabitation, presenting as married to the community, and mutual consent. These documents establish consent. Your joint bank accounts establish financial union. And look, he pulled up Ryan's LinkedIn. He listed himself as married for the tax benefits on his business filing. So when he marries Sophia, bigamy, a felony with up to 5 years in prison. James leaned back, fingers steepled. But here's the beautiful part. Read this clause about automatic renewal. Every 6 months, the terms strengthen in your favor. Right now, you're entitled to 70% of all assets acquired during the relationship, including his real estate license and client list? Everything. But Madison, timing is crucial. If you reveal this before the wedding, they'll quietly fix it. Exactly. But if you wait until they're at the altar... Eleanor called another meeting, this time at her estate attorney's office. The conference room smelled of old money and older secrets. She placed a document on the table with the reverence of someone handling explosives. I revised my will 2 years ago, she began, the same week you got engaged to that parasite. I've watched too many women in this family give everything to worthless men, so I added protections. The attorney, Mr. Blackwood, cleared his throat. The Eleanor Foster Trust contains assets valued at approximately $5 million. The terms are unique. I scanned the pages, legal language swimming before my eyes until one clause jumped out. To my granddaughter Madison Foster, I leave the entirety of my estate, subject to the following condition. She must remain legally married for 5 continuous years to receive full ownership. If divorced or unmarried at the time of my death, the estate transfers to charitable organizations. Grandma, I'm not married. Aren't you? Her smile was razor sharp. According to the state of Massachusetts, you've been married for exactly 13 months. Ryan's own tax filings confirm it. The room spun. You knew he'd filed those papers. I've had Mr. Blackwood monitoring every legal document filed with your name since you were 18. Ryan thought he was clever, establishing common law marriage for tax breaks and access to your health insurance. He never considered the obligations that come with it. But if I'm married and you die... I'm 75 with perfect health, but I've been feeling poorly lately, she winked. Might need to update some beneficiary forms. Shame if Ryan discovered he's the secondary beneficiary on a $5 million estate, right after committing bigamy. Mr. Blackwood slid another paper forward. This was filed yesterday, a codicil adding Ryan Mitchell as contingent beneficiary, should Madison predecease me. James worked through the weekend, building an airtight case. His paralegal pulled every document, the apartment deed showing only my name, but Ryan's claimed sweat equity, his business license listing me as a silent partner without my knowledge, and the joint credit cards he'd opened using my social security number. He's been busy, James muttered, highlighting another forged signature. This loan application claims you gifted him $200,000 for his real estate ventures. I never signed that. Your signature's on it, forged but convincing enough that he got the loan. Here's the kicker. He used your apartment as collateral. My hands shook as I read the foreclosure notice. If Ryan defaulted, which his bank statements suggested was imminent, I'd lose everything. We need to act fast, James said, but strategically. If we file now, he'll spin it as bitter X syndrome. If we wait until the wedding... 200 witnesses, I finished. We spent hours organizing evidence into a single manila envelope. Bank statements showing my payments for everything. Text messages where Ryan admitted to borrowing from my investment accounts. The crown jewel. A video from Sophia's Instagram where Ryan bragged about securing the bag by playing the long game with Madison's trust fund. She doesn't have a trust fund, I'd commented at the time. She thinks her grandma's money is already yours, James explained. That's why the wedding's so rushed. They think Eleanor's dying. How would they know? Your mom told Sophia about the hospital visit last week. Eleanor was getting Botox, but she let them think it was her heart. The final piece, a cease and desist for the wedding venue, ready to file the morning of the ceremony. If they proceeded with the wedding knowing about the common law marriage, the venue would be liable for facilitating fraud. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted with everything, type karma in the comments below. I see you, I feel you, and I promise, this story gets so much better. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on because what happens at this wedding will restore your faith in justice. We're about to see what happens when someone who thinks they've won everything discovers they've been playing checkers while Grandma and I were playing chess. Trust me, the dress I wore to that wedding was worth every penny of the $5,000 it cost. The invitation arrived in a pink envelope that reeked of desperation and Victoria's Secret body spray, the same scent I'd worn on my first date with Ryan. Sophia had hand-delivered it to my office, walking past security like she owned the building. Special delivery for the maid of honor, she announced to my entire floor. Inside, cream cardstock with gold foil announced the union of two souls destined for each other. But it was the sticky note that stopped my heart. Come see what true love looks like. Try not to cry too much. Waterproof mascara recommended. XOXO. She stood there waiting for me to break. 20 coworkers pretended to work while obviously watching. I need you there, Madison. Front row. I want you to see Ryan's face when he promises to love me forever. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Her smile wavered at my calm response. Good. Oh, and wear something nice but not too nice. You know, appropriate for your situation. That evening, she called. Actually, I've been thinking. You should be my maid of honor. I mean, who knows Ryan better than his ex? You can give a speech about how you kept him entertained until his real soulmate arrived. That's very generous, Sophia. I know, right? So generous. Most people wouldn't include the bitter ex-fiancé, but I want to show everyone there's no hard feelings. We're family first. I agreed immediately. I'll prepare something special for the occasion. Perfect. Oh, and Madison? No white. That would be pathetic, even for you. After she hung up, I called James. Change of plans. I'll be standing right next to her when it happens. Even better. The maid of honor can object on legal grounds. It's actually her duty to prevent an illegal union. The Vera Wang dress cost $5,000, but the look on everyone's face would be priceless. Pure white, form-fitting, with a train that would definitely photograph well in the wedding videos. I stood in the boutique, admiring my reflection while the saleswoman nervously adjusted the hem. It's for a wedding? Yes, a very special one. Are you the bride? In a way. James met me at the boutique with a silver gift box, the kind that screamed expensive. Inside, nestled in black velvet, lay the manila envelope that would destroy everything. We'd added a single white rose and a card. For your new beginning, may you get everything you deserve. Love, Madison. The venue knows? I asked. They'll receive the cease and desist at 9 a.m. The ceremony's at noon. They'll have to make a choice, stop the wedding or risk a lawsuit. And if they choose to continue? Then we have 200 witnesses to fraud, bigamy, and identity theft. He paused. Your grandmother's already at the hotel, presidential suite. She's invited her lawyer, her accountant, and a reporter from the Boston Globe who owes her a favor. A reporter? Society pages. Foster heiress reveals marriage fraud at sister's wedding. Your grandmother thinks it'll be educational for other young women. I picked up the gift box, testing its weight. Such a light thing to carry such heavy consequences. What about the prenup renewal? Triggered yesterday. As of midnight, you're entitled to 80% of all marital assets, including any gifts received at a wedding ceremony he attends as a groom. For the first time in 3 months, I genuinely smiled. My reflection smiled back. Not the broken woman they expected, but someone who'd finally learned the difference between being kind and being a doormat. I arrived at the Four Seasons ballroom at 11:30, perfectly timed for maximum impact. The white Vera Wang moved like liquid silk, the train trailing behind me as 200 heads turned in unison. The string quartet actually stopped mid-song. "What the hell is she wearing?" The whisper came from Aunt Patricia, loud enough for the entire room to hear. My mother rushed over, face flushed with mortification. "Madison, what are you thinking? This is Sophia's day." "I'm the maid of honor, Mom. I should look my best." "In white? At your sister's wedding? After everything She caught herself, realizing she'd almost admitted Sophia had done something wrong. "Change. Now." "Into what?" "This is what I brought." My father materialized, grabbing my elbow. "You're embarrassing the family. Again. Isn't losing Ryan enough? Do you have to ruin Sophia's happiness too?" "I'm not ruining anything. I'm just here to support my sister." Behind them, phones were already out. The Foster Mitchell wedding was trending before the bride even arrived. Comments poured in. "The audacity. Queen behavior. This is insane. Team Madison." Ryan stood at the altar, his face cycling through emotions, shock, anger, then something that looked like fear. He whispered urgently to his best man, who shrugged helplessly. The wedding planner scurried over. "Miss Foster, there seems to be a misunderstanding. The bride specifically requested. The bride requested I be here. Front and center." I held up the invitation with its sticky note still attached. "See? She wanted me to see what true love looks like." The woman backed away, speaking rapidly into her headset. "We have a situation. White dress. Yes. The sister. No, she won't leave." Every conversation in the room was about me. The rejected sister making a scene. Perfect. Let them all watch. Let them all witness. The wedding march began at exactly noon. Sophia appeared in the doorway, a $30,000 confection of lace and crystals that somehow looked cheap compared to the simple elegance of my Vera Wang. Her smile blazed until she saw me standing at the altar in white. Her step faltered. The photographer captured it perfectly, the bride realizing her thunder had been stolen. But Sophia recovered, her chin lifting as she resumed her walk. She was a foster woman after all. We didn't show weakness in public. Ryan couldn't take his eyes off me, not in a romantic way, more like someone watching a timer count down to an explosion. His hands shook as Sophia reached him. She grabbed them firmly, forcing him to look at her. "Dearly beloved," Father Morrison began, his voice carrying across the silent ballroom, "we are gathered here today to witness the union of Sophia Foster and Ryan Mitchell." I stood perfectly still, the gift box balanced in my hands. James sat in the third row, recording everything on his phone. Grandma Eleanor was front row center, wearing her best pearls and what she called her funeral face, serene with a hint of satisfaction. The ceremony proceeded with excruciating slowness. Readings about love conquering all. Ryan's cousin singing off-key. Sophia's sorority sisters giggling through a poem about soulmates. Through it all, I remained statue still, a white presence no one could ignore. "The couple has written their own vows," Father Morrison announced. Sophia turned to Ryan, her voice carrying clearly. "Ryan, you chose me when you could have settled. You recognize that love should be exciting, passionate, alive, not some business transaction." She looked directly at me on the word transaction. The audience shifted uncomfortably. This was too pointed, too cruel, even for family drama. "If anyone here has reason to believe this couple should not be joined in holy matrimony," Father Morrison's voice rang out, Speak now or forever hold your peace. The ballroom held its breath. 200 people waiting to see if the sister in white would crack. Sophia actually smirked at me, so certain I'd stay silent like I always had. I stepped forward. I object. Gasps rippled through the crowd like dominoes falling. Someone's champagne glass shattered. Sophia's face went from smug to scarlet in 2 seconds flat. On what grounds? Father Morrison asked, clearly having never dealt with an actual objection in 40 years of ceremonies. Legal grounds. I kept my voice steady, professional. This union would constitute bigamy. Ryan's what? Could be heard in the parking lot. You're insane, Sophia snarled. You're just jealous and bitter, and I have a wedding gift for my sister. I walked forward with the silver box, my train sweeping behind me like a queen's cape. Each step echoed in the silent ballroom. Something borrowed, you might say. I placed the box on the altar between them. Go ahead, Sophia, open it. In front of everyone. Show them what true love looks like. Her hands trembled as she lifted the lid. The rose fell first, landing at Ryan's feet. Then she saw the envelope. The legal seal was visible even from the back row. This is ridiculous, Ryan said, but his voice cracked. We're not married. Madison and I never filed the termination papers for our common law marriage. I pulled out my phone, projecting the documents onto the screen meant for their slideshow. Never dissolved the prenuptial agreement that automatically renewed 6 months ago? Never legally ended what you started for tax benefits? The crowd erupted. Father Morrison stepped back from the altar like it was contaminated. Sophia ripped open this envelope with manicured nails that had cost more than most people's car payments. The first document fell out. The common law marriage certificate, filed by Ryan 13 months ago. Her face went from red to white in seconds. This isn't real, she whispered. Then louder. This isn't real? Page 2, I said helpfully. Ryan's tax filing from last year, claiming married status. Page 3, the prenuptial agreement he signed, still in effect. Page 4, the automatic renewal clause he never read. James stood up from his seat. I'm James Chen, attorney at law. I can verify all documents are legitimate and filed with the state of Massachusetts. Ryan grabbed the papers from Sophia's shaking hands. This is entrapment. You tricked me. I tricked you? I laughed, the sound echoing off the crystal chandeliers. You filed these papers yourself, for tax benefits, remember? To get better insurance rates? To qualify for that business loan using my credit? Grandma Eleanor's voice cut through the chaos. In fact, Ryan, as Madison's legal husband, you're now beneficiary to a rather substantial inheritance. $5 million to be exact. She stood, leaning on her cane for effect rather than support. Of course, that's contingent on remaining married to Madison for 5 years. Divorce her, and you get nothing. Marry someone else while still married to her, and you go to prison. The wedding photographer was having the best day of his career, capturing every expression. Sophia's bridesmaids huddled together like scared chickens. Ryan's groomsmen were already edging toward the exits. In this state, James announced to the room, bigamy is a felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison and a $50,000 fine. Sophia turned to Ryan, mascara streaming down her face. You told me you handled everything. Are you still with me? If Sophia and Ryan are getting exactly what they deserve, type yes in the comments. If you think I'm being too harsh, type no. I want to hear all perspectives. Don't forget to share this with anyone who needs to hear that karma might come late, but she always arrives dressed to impress. What happens next will show you the true price of betrayal. Because when you try to steal someone's life, you better make sure they don't have the receipts. Eleanor moved to the altar with the authority of someone who'd bought and sold companies before breakfast. She pulled out a document with an official seal that caught the light. Let me explain the situation clearly, she announced, her voice carrying to every corner. 2 years ago, I revised my will. Madison inherits everything, the Foster Construction Company, the real estate portfolio, and roughly $5 million in liquid assets. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Several relatives who'd dismissed me suddenly looked very interested. However, Eleanor continued, there's a marital clause. Madison must be married for 5 continuous years to inherit. If she's unmarried or divorced when I die, everything goes to charity. So? Sophia spat. She's not married. Oh, but she is. To Ryan, as of 13 months ago. Eleanor smiled sweetly. Ryan, as her legal husband. You're the contingent beneficiary if Madison predeceases me. Congratulations. Ryan's face went through several expressions before landing on greed. So I inherit only if you remain married to Madison. Divorce her, you get nothing. Commit bigamy by marrying Sophia today, you get 5 years in prison. Quite the pickle, isn't it? This is blackmail, Sophia screamed. This is contract law, James corrected. Ryan entered into these agreements willingly. He filed the marriage papers himself. He signed the prenup without reading it. He claimed married status for financial benefit. These are just the consequences. Father Morrison cleared his throat. I cannot, in good conscience or legal standing, continue this ceremony. To do so would make me an accessory to bigamy. The venue manager appeared, looking panicked. We've received a cease and desist order. If this ceremony continues, we're liable for facilitating fraud. Everyone needs to leave. Now. 200 guests sat frozen, watching the Foster family empire reveal its true power. This can't be legal! Ryan's voice cracked like a teenager's. He spun toward James, then me, then back to the documents scattered across the altar. I'll sue. I'll fight this. With what money? I asked calmly. The $200,000 you borrowed using my forged signature? The credit cards you maxed out in my name? Or maybe the business loan you secured using my apartment as collateral without my knowledge? Sophia grabbed Ryan's arm. Fix this! You said you handled everything. You said the prenup was void. I thought it was. The wedding didn't happen. Because you didn't read Clause 17, James interrupted. Or Clause 18 about automatic renewal. Or Clause 23 about common law marriage superseding ceremonial requirements. The crowd was fully engaged now. Phones out, live streaming the drama. Someone had started a TikTok live that already had 10,000 viewers. The hashtag, #WeddingGateCrash, was trending. Madison, please. Ryan's bravado crumbled. We can work this out. Sign divorce papers. I'll sign them right now. Oh, now you want a divorce? After you told everyone I was boring, cold, unworthy of love? I pulled out my phone, scrolling to his messages with Sophia. After you called me a walking ATM and said you were securing the bag? Gasps from the audience. One of Ryan's clients stood up and walked out. You recorded our private... Instagram Live isn't private, Ryan. Sophia broadcast your whole relationship, including the part where you bragged about spending my investment account on this wedding. Sophia turned on him. You said you paid for everything. You said your business was thriving. More lies? I asked innocently. Shocking. By the way, Ryan, your biggest client called yesterday. Something about seeing your character on social media. You might want to check your email. I stood at the altar like a judge delivering a verdict. The entire ballroom was silent except for the sound of phones recording and Sophia's muffled sobs. Here's what's going to happen, I announced, my voice steady and clear. Ryan, you have 2 options. Option 1, we proceed with an amicable divorce. You pay back the $300,000 you stole, yes, stole, from my accounts. Every penny with interest. Sophia deletes every post, every story, every TikTok where she mocked me, and you both sign a non-disclosure agreement about our family's finances. Or, Ryan's voice was barely a whisper, or option 2, I file charges for identity theft, fraud, and forgery. The FBI takes financial crimes very seriously, especially when they cross state lines. Those business loans you took out in Florida using my information? Federal offense. James stepped forward with a tablet. I've prepared the divorce settlement. Sign now, and Madison won't pursue criminal charges. You have 60 seconds to decide. This is extortion, Sophia shrieked. No, Eleanor corrected. This is negotiation. Something Madison learned from the best. She winked at me. Your grandfather would be proud. Ryan looked at the tablet, then at Sophia, then at the 200 witnesses with their phones out. If I sign, this ends? No criminal charges? Clean break. You walk away with your freedom and whatever's left of your reputation. I don't have 300,000. Then you better start selling. Your car, your Rolex collection you bought with my money, the investment property in Miami you forgot to mention. James has a complete list. 40 seconds left. The crowd counted down on their phones. Someone had started a betting pool on whether he'd sign. Time's ticking, Ryan. Prison or payment? Choose. Sophia's collapse was spectacular. The $30,000 dress puddled around her as she sank to the floor, sobbing so hard her false eyelashes came off. Mascara ran in black rivers down her cheeks, destroying the airbrush makeup that had taken 3 hours to apply. This was supposed to be my day, she wailed. My perfect day. The photographer kept shooting. The videographer zoomed in. Every phone captured the moment the golden child finally faced consequences. Ma'am, we need the ballroom cleared, the venue manager insisted. You have 15 minutes before we call security. The reception, Sophia gasped. The food, the cake, the band. Requires immediate payment of $50,000, the manager said, holding out an iPad. The Foster family credit card was declined this morning. My mother rushed forward. There must be a mistake. No mistake, Eleanor said calmly. I froze the family accounts an hour ago. If Sophia wants her reception, she can pay for it herself. After all, she's an influencer. Surely those 50,000 followers translate to income. They're just followers. They don't. Sophia caught herself, realizing she'd admitted her career was fake too. Ryan signed the divorce papers with a shaking hand. There, done. I'll have the money in 30 days. 14 days, James corrected, or we file charges. Someone in the crowd laughed. Then another. Soon, ripples of barely suppressed giggles filled the ballroom. The bride who'd stolen her sister's man was sitting in a puddle of tulle, her wedding destroyed by paperwork. The hashtag #KarmaWarWhite is trending, someone announced. 20,000 tweets already. Sophia looked up at me with raccoon eyes. You've ruined my life. No, Sophia, you ruined your own life. I just brought the receipts. Ryan's phone buzzed incessantly as we stood in the wreckage of the ceremony. Each notification was another nail in his professional coffin. He read them with growing horror, his face aging 10 years in 10 minutes. Mitchell saw the wedding video. Contract terminated. Henderson Group. Your services are no longer required. Baxter Industries. Please remove us from your client list. Zhao Enterprises. 3 clients, he muttered. 3 of my biggest clients gone. Actually, 5, I corrected. The Petersons and Wilmington Trust called while you were getting ready. Apparently, they don't trust their portfolios with someone who commits fraud. His phone rang. Mom? His voice cracked. Yes, I saw the posts. No, it's not what it looks like. Mom, please. He pulled the phone away from his ear. Even from 10 feet away, we could hear his mother screaming about embarrassing the Mitchell name. I need a loan, he said desperately to his groomsmen, just until I can liquidate some assets. They backed away like he had something contagious. His best man actually laughed. You still owe me $5,000 from Vegas, remember? The trip you said Madison paid for? My car, Ryan mumbled. I'll sell my car. The BMW? I asked sweetly. The one you bought with the loan you got using my credit score? James has the paperwork showing it's technically marital property. You'll need my signature to sell it. You planned this. His realization came too late. You knew about everything and waited. I learned from the best. You taught me that patience pays off. You just never expected me to be the one collecting. By the end of the day, Ryan Mitchell went from successful realtor to unemployed, homeless, and $300,000 in debt. His LinkedIn profile would forever be associated with wedding fraud groom. The family WhatsApp group exploded before we even left the venue. Aunt Patricia, who'd called me too ambitious, suddenly remembered I'd always been the responsible one. Uncle David, who'd said Sophia deserved happiness, posted about learning who people really are. My parents stood in the empty ballroom, surrounded by $10,000 of flowers no one would see. My mother's face had aged a decade in an hour. "How could we have been so blind?" she whispered. "You weren't blind," Eleanor said sharply. "You chose favorites. Madison paid for family dinners while you praised Sophia for showing up. Madison bought this venue's deposit while you gushed about Sophia's engagement. We thought we were helping Sophia find herself. You were enabling a narcissist." Eleanor's voice cut like ice. "And teaching Madison that her value came from what she could provide, not who she was." My father slumped in a chair meant for the wedding party. "Madison, we failed you." "Yes," I said simply. "You did. Can you forgive us?" "Forgiveness isn't a reset button. You spent 28 years showing me I mattered less. That doesn't disappear because Sophia finally faced consequences." The family reputation was destroyed within hours. Foster family wedding fraud became a case study in toxic family dynamics. Sophia's Instagram hemorrhaged followers, 30,000 gone in one day. Brands pulled partnerships. Her influencer career evaporated like morning mist. "She needs therapy," my mother said weakly. "She needs accountability," Eleanor corrected. "And Madison needs parents who actually see her, though it might be too late for that." The security guard appeared. "Everyone out. Now." As we filed out, relatives who'd ignored my pain for months suddenly wanted to know if I was okay. 20 years too late. 6 months later, I stood in my new corner office, watching Boston Harbor from the 20th floor. The CFO nameplate on my desk still felt surreal. Turns out, when you handle public humiliation with grace and legal precision, companies want you managing their finances. The penthouse Grandma Eleanor helped me buy was 7 blocks from Ryan's old office, the one he'd lost along with everything else. I'd furnished it with pieces that reflected my taste, not what someone else thought I should like. Clean lines, bold colors, actual personality. "You look happy," James said from the doorway. We'd started having lunch weekly after the wedding disaster, first as lawyer and client, then as friends, now as something more. "I am happy. For the first time in years, I actually am." My phone buzzed with the text from an unknown number. A selfie of Sophia working at a department store cosmetics counter. "This is your fault," the message read. I deleted it without responding. She'd sent dozens of messages, each one blocked. Ryan had tried calling 50 times before James sent a cease and desist. They wanted me to save them, like I always had. "The Bloomberg article comes out tomorrow," James mentioned. "Young CFO rises above family betrayal." As long as they focus on the financial success, not the drama. "They quoted your grandmother? She said you're the only Foster who inherited the backbone along with the bank account." Eleanor had revised her will again, removing the marriage clause entirely. "You've proven you don't need a man to validate your worth," she'd said. "The money's yours, regardless." My new life had strict boundaries. No toxic family members, no one-sided relationships, no apologizing for my success. The boring, serious walking calculator had built an empire from the ashes of betrayal. Looking back, the red flags were so obvious they might as well have been on fire. But when you're raised to believe your value comes from serving others, you ignore the smoke until everything burns down. Here's what I learned from losing everything to gain myself. Always keep your paperwork. Every receipt, every contract, every text message. The person who says, "If you loved me, you'd trust me," is usually the one you shouldn't trust. Love doesn't require blind faith in someone else's financial decisions. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Ryan showed me he valued money over integrity. Sophia showed me she'd take anything that was mine. My parents showed me I was less important than keeping peace. I just refused to see it. Your family doesn't get unlimited access to your life just because they share your DNA. Blood might be thicker than water, but it's not thicker than self-respect. Setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's necessary. The best revenge truly is a well-documented legal case. But the second best revenge? Living well without them. Every success I achieve now is mine alone, earned without manipulation or theft. Never apologize for protecting yourself. The people who call you bitter for having boundaries are usually the ones who benefited from you having none. And finally, karma doesn't need your help, but she appreciates good documentation. When someone's building their happiness on a foundation of lies, just make sure you're not standing close when it collapses. 2 years later, I married James in a small ceremony by the harbor. 20 guests who actually loved us. No stolen venues, no family drama. Sophia wasn't invited. My parents received an announcement after the fact. Ryan was still paying off his debt, working 3 jobs, and living in his mother's basement. His Instagram showed motivational quotes about rising from the ashes that got 12 likes each. Sophia had reinvented herself twice, first as a wellness coach, then as a relationship expert. Both careers failed when people Googled her name. The internet never forgets, especially when the hashtag #KarmaWarWhite is permanently linked to your image. Eleanor lived another 4 years, long enough to see me become the youngest CEO in our company's history. She left me an additional $2 million and a letter. You learned the only lesson that matters. Your worth was never dependent on anyone else's validation. The Foster family construction empire was mine now, rebuilt on foundations of integrity instead of enabling. We'd lost some relatives along the way, but kept the ones who mattered. Sometimes losing someone shows you what you truly deserve. And sometimes, a wedding that doesn't happen is the beginning of your real happily ever after. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever risen stronger from betrayal, type "stronger" in the comments below. Subscribe and hit the notification bell for more stories about emotional justice and setting healthy boundaries. What story would you like to hear next? Workplace karma, where a boss who stole credit gets exposed at the board meeting, or toxic friendship where a best friend's lies unravel at her own book launch? Let me know in the comments. Remember, document everything, trust your instincts, and never apologize for protecting yourself. You deserve people who choose you first, not as a backup plan.